is Great Ducks, presented by Carl's Jr. on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College. Visit your locally family-owned and operated Carl's Jr. today. Carl's Jr. Feed your happy. Today's broadcast is also brought to you by Country Financial Insurance. Protect what matters. And by Pepsi and Bigfoot Beverages. Go Ducks. Drink Pepsi. Now let's talk some Oregon Ducks greats from the Country Financial Studios alongside Jerry Allen, Mike Jorgensen, and Terry Johns. Here's Joey Mack.
Thank you, and a happy Tuesday to everybody joining us across the Oregon Sports Network. Maybe you're watching the show on one of the Oregon football social media channels. Thanks for being with us. This has been a lot of fun, talking about some of the greats. And now today we're going to talk about the greats at the running back position. Jerry Allen, Mike Jorgensen, Terry Johns joining us via the University of Oregon Alumni Association guest line. And guys, we've had so much fun going through everybody. And like I said last week, if there's one thing that I've learned, it's this, that we got to jump right in because we have so many great guys to talk about, particularly at the running back position here at the University of Oregon. So let's begin, guys, and run through it. Jerry Allen, the first Duck that we're talking about today.
All right, Joey, guys, the running backs are the ones that probably people are so excited about because they are the most exciting on the field. Wide receivers, yeah, quarterbacks, yeah, but running backs always dazzling. I get to bring up the first guy, one of my favorite guys, and one of the guys at the top of most of the list. That's LaMichael James. Call him LaMike right now. But just a few of his stats, and then I'm going to read what he did through the years as we get a chance to watch some of his highlights. All 3 years, he eclipsed the 1,000-yard mark. Second on the career rushing list behind only Royce Freeman, who had another year beyond him. There's a great run against Tennessee, at Tennessee. They just couldn't get him down. He wouldn't give up. That was LaMichael. 7 consecutive 100-yard games. 26 career 100-yard games. He was special. He not only in football, he was a track guy. 2006 Texas 100-meter championship. 10.51 for Liberty High School. 5'9", 180-pounder, became one of only 3 Oregon student athletes to win both a Pac-10 track and field football championship in the same academic year. In 2010, he and teammate Kenjon Barner became the first to accomplish that at Oregon in 74 years. 2009, he helped Oregon win its 4th straight Pac-10 outdoor title in track and field by taking 5th in the 100. That's track and field. We see him here in football. He was fast. He got away from a lot of guys. After the suspension of LeGarrette Blount, it was LaMichael's turn. Following that Boise State game, James became the starting running back for the Ducks in 2009, helped the Ducks to upset victories over Utah and Cal with 115 and 118 rushing yards respectively. Then he rushed for over 100 yards on October 10th against UCLA with 152 yards again against Washington October 24th. Halloween night, how about USC? Number 5 came in. He had 183 yards against the Trojans. That led all BCS conference running backs with 6.9 yards per carry that year. He was just a man. Set a Pac-10 freshman record with 1,546 rushing yards. On December 7th, 2009, James was named the Pac-10 Offensive Freshman of the Year. 2010, he kept it going. This is one of the highlights for me. Against Stanford, the Cardinal garnered 3 touchdowns, 257 yards on 31 rushes. Over the course of the season, James had eclipsed the century mark 9 times. Despite missing the first game of the 2010 season, James managed to break the Pac-10 all-time sophomore single rushing record. 2011 comes along, he never let up. First game of the 2011 season against LSU, James became Oregon's career rushing leader, surpassing the mark previously set by Derek Loville. Third game of the season against Missouri State, 204 yards, 3 touchdowns. 4th career 200-yard rushing game. On the 24th against Arizona, 288 yards on 24 carries. Then October 6, 2011 against Cal, he fell awkwardly on that right arm, went off in an air cast. We thought he broke it. He dislocated it. We all got sick to our stomach. He popped it back in and would come back to play later on. Rose Bowl, January 2nd, 159 yards on 25 carries, a touchdown to help Oregon beat Wisconsin 45-38 in the Rose Bowl. He would finish that season with 1,805 yards, second all-time on the list. He went on to the NFL, unfortunately for us. Yeah, he only played 3 years. Royce Freeman leads him in some of those categories, but he played 3. Royce played 4. Otherwise, I think LaMichael would have been the all-time leader in a lot more categories. Played in the NFL, 61st pick overall with the 49ers. Played about 4 years. But football, nothing compared to the burgers he makes right now. He's got a killer burger. Oh, man. Doesn't make you forget his football game, but you sure do enjoy his killer burger. He's got it going to Portland. I thought he was going to have one down here in Eugene. Probably would have if COVID hadn't hit. Jorgie, the guy was amazing.
Oh, I mean, Jerry, watching that highlight package that was put together, I can almost hear every single one of your calls with every single one of those rushes. The guy was unbelievably fast, shifty, but I think sometimes with LaMichael, what was underappreciated was how strong he was for his size. Remember that Halloween game at Autzen Stadium against USC when Oregon just bullied him at the line of scrimmage and wore him down, and it was LaMichael who was wearing them down, frankly, along with that offensive line on a real special night. A lot of special games that guy was involved in, and obviously a teammate of his, Kenjon Barner, is who I get the chance to talk about. And boy, I tell you, just go from one to another to another. I was watching highlights last night of all the guys that we're going to talk about today, and Kenjon is who I get. And I'll tell you, he had a tremendous career at the University of Oregon, not only as a running back, and a huge run right there you're watching against Washington State, up in Seattle, by the way, when Oregon played them there where the Seahawks play. And so it was a great game to be able to watch him there, watch him on the big stage. But, you know, he was a kick returner. He was a tremendous all-time special teams type of player. He came in as a defensive back. And then they shifted him over to the offensive side of the ball. Nick Aliotti was ticked because the offense kept stealing all of his good players, and Kenjon Barner was one of them. But, boy, 2012 was Kenjon Barner's year. And, again, that highlight there against USC you were just seeing, I'm going to highlight that here in just a second. Kenjon Barner, number one, was number 3 on the all-time rushing list for Oregon, 3,623 yards in his career, 41 touchdowns. He averaged over 6 yards a carry, and in 2012 he averaged 136 yards a game. He was also a dual threat type of guy, not only as a punt returner, as you see there against Tennessee, but also as a receiver. He had 591 yards total in his career, 7 touchdowns receiving, but the 2012 year was the biggest one, 100 yards, 100-yard kickoff return his freshman year, but you go 201 yards and 3 TDs against Fresno, 195 and 3 TDs against Washington State, 122 against the Huskies, 143 against Arizona State, including a 71-yarder in that game, 104 against Colorado. But my favorite and the number one in Oregon history, single-game rushing record, 38 carries. I just watched every one of them the other night, 321 yards, 5 touchdowns against the Trojans. 730 yards they put on the Trojans in the Coliseum, 426 on the ground. By the way, Marcus was 20 of 23 for 4 touchdowns in that game, too. I can remember it like it was yesterday. But he had a tremendous year that year. Number 3 single season, 1,767 yards rushing that year, 21 touchdowns. He's number 1 tied with LaMichael in touchdowns scored rushing in a season. That was 21. He scored 41 in his career. He was drafted by the Carolina Panthers. He's played for a lot of teams over his career, the Chargers, the Eagles, the Patriots, the Falcons, the Ravens, and now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a consensus All-American, first-team All-Pac-12 guy, and that's Kenjon Barner. Love the guy, love the way he played, and man, I tell you, I can just, again, shut my eyes and see all these plays and hear Jerry's calls on all of these. It was great to see him play. And Terry, you remember him. I mean, he could fly just like LaMichael could, and again, just a steady, Freddy guy.
Yeah, absolutely. He and LaMichael in the backfield together. I mean, what a 1-2 punch. I mean, there's been a lot of 1-2 punches in Oregon uniforms, but that one was certainly a key one. But after LaMichael left, and then Kenjon stepped in and did his thing. Well, I got a kind of a different kind of back to talk about than the two smaller guys, the smaller versions that you guys talked about with speed. Still had enough speed, and I'm talking about Royce Freeman, who's in his third year now with the Denver Broncos. 5'11 and a half, 238 pounds. By the way, in the NFL Combine, he was timed at 4.5 in the 40. And he also had a vertical jump of 3 inches. I mean, that's an athlete and just one of the nicest guys that you'll find. Kind of quiet. And I might tell you a story here in just a minute, just with the pregame show. But Royce, coming out of Imperial, California, a 5-star recruit, Imperial east of San Diego. I remember talking to Tyree Robinson, I think it was, that played high school ball in San Diego. And he said Royce in high school football was just a terror, just an absolute terror. Over 7,000 yards in high school, I think 111 touchdowns, something like that he scored. But number 8 running back in the country. He's now, as Jerry mentioned, the number 1 career rusher at Oregon, 5,621. Junior year didn't quite make 1,000 as he was pretty dinged up in that 2016 4-8 season, and so didn't quite make 1,000. Came close, 900 and some. But 2015 year he was 1,836 yards, career average of 5.9 a rush, number 1 rushing TDs in the Oregon history, as well as the Pac-12 with 60 rushing TDs in his career, number 1 in 100-yard games with 31, including 9 straight in 2015, his sophomore year, and finished with 11 that year. His best game, 27 carries, 246 yards against Washington State, his sophomore year at Autzen, an 85-yard run, his longest run against Virginia at Autzen. And he was a 2-time second-team Pac-12 and a 1-time first-team Pac-12 Offensive Freshman of the Year, the only Oregon freshman, I think they mean true freshman, to ever rush for over 1,000 yards with 1,365 yards. That was with Marcus the 2014 year where they beat Florida State in the semifinals in the Rose Bowl and then lost to Ohio State in the national championship. Led the Pac-12 that year with 18 rushing touchdowns as a true freshman. Freshman All-American by 5 publications, and sophomore year, second team All-American by Football Writers Association, third team by Phil Steele, 2-time Doak Walker semifinalist, the best running back in the country, Maxwell Award semifinalist, which is the best college football player in the country, 2018 NFL Draft, 3rd round, 71st pick by Denver in his 3rd year there now. And I'll tell you, he roomed with Charles Nelson and Arion Springs for all 4 years that they were at the University of Oregon. And Royce would always be so quiet when I would interview him. I think his junior year, I just left him alone. Of course, it wasn't a great year. And so a lot of times I try and get the guy, my goal is to try and get him to laugh. Royce, it took me till his senior year to get him to really crack a smile and have some fun. But I'd ask Charles, I would say, Arion's personality, I mean, here's you, and then here's Royce, quiet. And he goes, Charles says, Royce isn't that quiet. You ought to see him at home. He lets his hair down. He is not, just like the rest of us. So being the good reporter that I am, next time I talk to Royce, I said, well, Charles says that you let your hair down. And he goes, well, I don't see any reason to talk out your butt all day long. So I'm like, okay, that was Royce. But then, they kept telling me that the SIDs kept telling me, okay, he doesn't want to talk. He doesn't want to talk. Well, I saved him up for the Oregon State game his senior year. And I said, well, tell Royce, I want to give him a chance to tell everybody what it meant to be a man of Oregon, to thank the fans. And he goes, well, I'll ask him, but he's not going to do it. Then about 5 minutes later, he got a text back, Royce is in. And Royce enjoyed it. He appreciated it. He was wonderful. It was a great interview. He smiled and he shook my hand at the end. He appreciated that. And and besides a great football player, and just wish him well at Denver. And I told him, I said, if we can have players come out of Oregon and go to the NFL and represent the university, that they're like you, we're doing pretty doggone well. And we do have a lot of them, but Royce, special guy, a special back. I know a lot of people, including myself, sometimes wanted him to run people over with his size, but watching film of him today, a lot of people were bouncing off trying to tackle him as he was racking up 5,621 yards, but a special guy. Joey?
I loved watching Royce Freeman play. Yeah, I absolutely loved watching Royce Freeman play, and I love hearing that story, Terry, because that's just
That's what you hear on the pregame show, by the way.
That's right. That's what you hear on the pregame show. All right, with that, quick timeout. We're going to come back. We got our Dairy Mart highlight of the week. After this, you're going to want to stick around. One of my favorite calls from Jerry, one of my favorite runs from LaMichael James. We're back inside the Country Financial Studio on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Ninkasi Brewing is proud to be an official partner of the Oregon Radio Network. Independently owned and brewed in Eugene since 2006, Ninkasi invites you to participate in the Juicy Domination at Home Sports Challenge during the month of October. Participate in 4 challenges from the comfort of your own home and win sweet prizes. Celebrating the launch of Juicy Domination Tropical IPA in its own 6-pack. More information at ninkasibrewing.com/Juicy Domination Sports.
All it takes is one drop to make a wave. One beat to inspire a track. One spark to get creativity flowing. With every drop, Life Water refreshes your mind and restores your body. Purified water, pH balanced with electrolytes for taste. Designed with original works of art on every bottle. Let us be your source of inspiration. Life Water, the feel-good water.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
More great Ducks talk comes after this timeout on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I open the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans. When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer. I want to be a warm fleece on a cool day. I want to be a bike that races around the country. I want to be a bench on a forest trail. When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Ducks presented by Carl's Jr., Jerry Allen, Mike Jorgensen, Terry Johns joining us. Time for our Dairy Mart highlight of the week, though. It's one of my favorite LaMichael James runs and one of my favorite calls from Jerry Allen. Just wait till the end. It's our Dairy Mart highlight of the week.
That's LaMichael beside Thomas, and here's first down from the left 28. On the handoff, and it'll be LaMichael trying to get it outside. They'll go left now. He's got a block. If he can get a little corner, he does. First down, 40, 45, 50 down the sideline. Cuts it back inside. Now back outside. Still his feet at the 20. They go to the 10. He is going to dive into the end zone. LaMichael James, with a world-class effort, will score the touchdown, and they have quieted down here in Neyland Stadium. The noise you hear are the Duck fans.
I love it. That was against Tennessee, one of the most impressive LaMichael James runs, and he had a few. Our highlight of the week brought to you by the Dairy Mart and Lockmead family, the local stop for fresh-to-go lunch, thirst-quenching drinks, and award-winning ice cream. Go Ducks. Jerry, what do you remember about that play?
Well, that stadium was huge, and there was a thunderstorm brewing, and that was a thunderclap. A lot of that was done by LaMichael James, obviously, but it was like he was greased. Because when he got down that left sideline, a lot of guys had shots at him, but they couldn't hold on. They just couldn't grasp him. I kept waiting for him to go down. He was going to go down. Oh, he didn't. He was going to go down. Oh, he didn't. He got away. He was going to go down, out of bounds. And then when he dove into the end zone, it was like, are you kidding me? That's LaMichael James.
I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Our next great Duck, Jerry Allen.
Well, he's a fisherman. This guy, I just remember him in one of the media scrums saying something about, I want to go fishing. And so eventually we did get to do that together, and there's some video of it out there somewhere, I'm sure. DeAnthony Thomas. DeAnthony, he was speed. He was tough to catch. When Thomas was 12 years old, he was a Pop Warner football star, played for the Crenshaw Bears in Snoop Dogg's Snoop Youth Football League. Snoop Dogg claims to have given Thomas the nickname Black Mamba, but apparently it was a coach before that did, regarded as a 5-star recruit by rivals. When he came to Oregon, they knew what they had. Thomas had a standout 2011 season as a true freshman, splitting time between both sides of the ball, running back and a wide receiver, as well as returning kickoffs and punts. He amassed 2,235 all-purpose yards, 18 touchdowns his first year, setting a school record for the number of touchdowns by a freshman. Thomas, the only player in 2011 college football year to amass 400 yards each in rushing, receiving, and returns. It's because when he got the ball, he just ran away from people. You can see it right there against Arizona State. If there was a crease, and for his size, 5'9", 170, it was kind of like a flea. He'd bounce right off of you. Final game of the season in 2011, January 2nd, Thomas recorded 2 touchdowns, 314 all-purpose yards in the Rose Bowl. Oregon won 45-38 over number 10, Wisconsin. Important member of the Oregon Pac-12 runner and 4x100-meter squad track man. He did it all, his speed. Featured on the cover of Sports Illustrated on September 24th, 2012. Headline inside read, "Can't touch that." He's not a running back. He's a receiver, even a starter. He is just a weapon waiting to happen. That was in Sports Illustrated. Well, his greatness is obviously, well, are you kidding me? There we are fishing. Entering his junior year, Thomas was a candidate for the Paul Hornung Award as being on watch list for the Doak Walker Award and the Heisman Trophy. September 9th, 2013, named the Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Week. 3 rushing touchdowns against Virginia. I don't think we caught any fish that day. But on January 5th, 2014, Thomas announced he would forego his senior season, enter the 2014 NFL Draft. He is still playing, by the way, longest run from scrimmage, number 2 on that list against Wisconsin, 91 yards. Total offense and all-purpose yards in a season, number 2 on that list. Top 10 list in points scored in the season and career, and had a 94-yard kickoff return to jumpstart that 2001 Fiesta Bowl against Kansas State. Jorgie, got to remember that. And who was it that said we're going to the Natty? I think he coined the phrase, if I'm not mistaken.
No, that might have been Cliff Harris. That might have been Cliff Harris.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Cliff Harris. Cliffy. All right. Dad, I tried to give you a little something. Oh, that's true.
By the way, guys, talking about fishing, just real quick, you guys know that he launched his own fishing apparel line, right?
No, I did not know that.
No, this is a real thing. Just a few weeks ago, he launched his own fishing apparel line, and to celebrate, Scott Phillips and I played the entire Fishing with DeAnthony Thomas and Jerry Allen on Duck Insider a few weeks ago. He launched his own fishing apparel line. True story. So you can find it. Follow DeAnthony on Twitter, and you'll see it in all capital letters, I promise.
Electric. He was electric.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it, Jorgie. He was something else. Speed.
All right, we got to get a quick timeout. When we come back, more great Ducks. We're talking running backs. I'm Joey Mack inside the Country Financial Studio. More coming up on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
What's it like to grow with the O? At OCCU, we support Duck fans each step of the way by educating our youth with Lucky Duck Savings, celebrating independence with Duck Debit Checking, and rewarding members with the Duck Credit Card. That's how Duck fans grow with OCCU. Learn how you can too at myoccu.org/ducks.
As my family continued to grow, I realized I'd have to replace my beloved Jeep with something that has, well, more seats. I'm Jason Hines, Country Financial Rep and father of 7. Whether you're upgrading from your sporty ride with no room for a car seat or finally replacing your well-loved beater that still has a cassette player, you'll want the right protection for your new car. Work with a Country Financial Rep like me and get the protection you need at a price you can afford. Learn more at TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
Make a trip to the epicenter of Oregon wine country and visit Elizabeth Chambers Cellar. Our wines are crafted authentically in an old-world style in one of McMinnville's most historic working wineries. Let our staff lead you through a tasting of highly rated wines. Our newly renovated tasting room is chic and urban. It's no wonder people are talking about Elizabeth Chambers Cellar, now offering private seated tastings. Call us to find out more information or to make your reservation today. Elizabeth Chambers Cellar is open daily from 11 to 5. Find us online at ElizabethChambersCellar.com.
You're listening to Great Ducks on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Whoa.
The moment my son saw a redwood tree
It's huge!
is the moment I knew that for him,
You can't even see the top of that thing.
even the sky has no limit.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. Your moment is out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Jill, why don't you tell the class what you did this weekend?
Well, my dad and I went in search of some magical minnows and found a zillion of them in the stream from our lookout rock. Then my sister and I escaped from an evil slug king and went back to my super twig fort for safety. Then we told stories till it got dark, and the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Where were you, Jill?
We went to the forest. It's not that far away.
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Back on Great Ducks, presented by Carl's Jr., Joey Mack, Jerry Allen, Mike Jorgensen, Terry Johns, inside the Country Financial Studio. Our next guy, I think, guys, has had one of the best NFL careers that we've seen for a duck at any position. And we're going to have Jorgie talk about him. Our Pro Duck Highlight always brought to you by Toyota. Jorgie?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, talk about a real gentleman from the state of Washington, and came out of the state of Washington as the number 2 recruit in the entire country. It was probably the biggest get at the time that Oregon had ever gotten, and that's Jonathan Stewart out of Lacey, Washington, Timberline High School, 5'11", 230. Now, guys, listen to this, 5'11", 230. He ran a 4.48 at the combine for the 40, had a 36-inch vertical. He did 225 pounds 28 times. Just unbelievable that you can package all that within that body and be that fast. And yet Terry and I and Jerry were making the comment during the timeout, a lot like Royce Freeman, NFL body, ready to play the day he got to Oregon at the age of 18. He was ready to play, and he looked like a 23 or 24-year-old. Just one of those type of guys. And I can remember a few plays. First carry against University of Houston, down in Houston, he carried probably 6-7 guys, 30-some-odd yards for his first carry of his career. His first touch at Autzen Stadium was a kickoff return for a touchdown against Montana. I mean, he made all kinds of plays, whether it's kickoff returns, big runs, everything else that goes with it. In 2007, 1,722 yards, rushing, 11 touchdowns, a second-team All-American. I mean, he was the real deal. Capped that season off with a 23-carry, 253-yard performance against South Florida in the Sun Bowl. Still the all-time rushing record in that bowl game of 70 years. Since 1950, nobody's had more yards than Jonathan Stewart. He was the 13th overall pick of the Carolina Panthers. In 2008, he has set franchise records for the Panthers in the amount of rushes, career rushing yards. And what I thought was really cool, guys, is he went to the New York Giants in 2018. They ended up releasing him. The Carolina Panthers signed him for 1 day in 2019 so he could retire a Carolina Panther. That was really, really neat to see. Again, certain records, he's got season rushing number 5 all-time, career number 5 all-time, number 7 all-time touchdowns, 100-yard games in a season, number 2. He did 9 times in a season, 14 times in his career. Jonathan Stewart, a real gentleman from Lacey, Washington. And by the way, just like with Kenjon Barner in his hometown, basically, Riverside in L.A., when he lit up the USC Trojans, 251 yards in Seattle. I can remember that game like it was yesterday, too, in front of his hometown fans. Jonathan Stewart, tremendous running back from Lacey, Washington. And Jeremiah Johnson, Terry, is another one of those type of guys that just, again, the yards and everything that you look at, the type of player he was, tremendous player.
Well, I was going to keep it a secret, Jorgie. You gave it away, son. No, it's kind of interesting, too, that Jeremiah and Jonathan were teammates for 3 years.
Yeah,
and really, Jeremiah really got a chance to shine after he left a year early to go to the NFL. 2005 to 2008, Jeremiah Johnson, a 5'10", 200-pounder, Dorsey High School in Los Angeles, but he got hurt into his junior year. I think it was 6 games. And then really, like I said, he shined his last year. What I remember about him is stiff arms. He had one of the best stiff arms of a Duck that I've ever seen. Not a big back, but, man, you came around to him, and he'd just throw you to the ground, some defenders sometimes. And then had enough speed to run away from you as well. So you see that one kind of pushing a guy and making some more yardage. But his first 3 years, as I mentioned, shared with Jonathan Stewart. He's 9th University of Oregon all-time with 2,336. Rushing, first all-time in average yards per rush with 6.7 for a career. I mean, when he got a chance to run, he was making hay. Number 2 all-time average per rush in a season with 7.2, and that was in his senior year, as I mentioned, after a season-ending knee injury after just 6 games in his junior year. Number 5 all-time rushing in TDs with 30. Senior year rushed for 1,201 yards and 13 touchdowns, 6 times over 100 yards in his career. His best game was his final regular season game at Oregon State, 17 carries, 219 yards, including an 83-yard touchdown run in that game. I think he had 203 yards in the first half. That's the Ducks were putting one on the Beavers in the rivalry game. 2008 Holiday Bowl win over Oklahoma State. You know, we talk about Jeremiah Masoli, and obviously Jeremiah rushed for 106 yards, and T.J. Ward and his big hits. Well, in that game, Jeremiah Johnson had 12 carries, 119 yards, and a touchdown against Oklahoma State. No slouch. You just kind of did it quietly and with the big stiff arms and running for the end zone. Second team All Pac-10 his senior year, and undeclared free agent. He's hung around about 7 years, really didn't get to do much in the NFL, although in 2011 he had 14 carries and 77 yards for the Broncos in Denver. And if I remember right, I think he got hurt and always kind of injuries, but he stuck around for a long time, 6 years in the CFL after that. In fact, 2015 CFL rushing touchdown leader with 9. And he just retired last year. He played a long time after he left the University of Oregon. But Jeremiah Johnson, and like I said, guys, maybe you, Jerry, I heard you say, yeah, the stiff arm from Jeremiah. And he could throw some guys down and keep going.
You know, it's funny, Terry, how you remember those things. I was watching an NFL game this weekend, and a running back came out of the backfield. I don't know who it was, but he threw a big stiff arm that just whipped a guy away from him, and I immediately thought of Jeremiah Johnson. He perfected that play. He really did, Joey.
That's cool. I remember watching Jeremiah Johnson, and you talk about a 1-2 punch, guys. I mean, it's amazing to think about. We mentioned LaMichael and Kenyon, but with Jonathan Stewart and Jeremiah Johnson, I mean, the 1-2 punch that Oregon has had in the backfield a lot of different times. Those aren't the only 2 pairings. It's really pretty amazing. Our product highlight brought to you by Toyota. Today's the day to contact your local Toyota dealer. Toyota, let's go places. Quick timeout. When we come back, more great Ducks to highlight at the running back position. From inside the Country Financial Studio, we're back after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
This football season, prepare your taste buds for the most iconic sports-watching drink of all time, Pepsi. With refreshing deliciousness specially formulated to keep your eye on the ball and mouth-watering fizziness to help you power through game day, Pepsi has everything you need to start strong.
I used to care when Mike cheered so hard he spilled nacho cheese on my carpet, but thanks to Pepsi, even Mike can't ruin my football party.
So this football season, make Pepsi your go-to game day drink because it's the only drink made for football watching. Pepsi, that's what I like.
Make a trip to the epicenter of Oregon wine country and visit Elizabeth Chambers. Our wines are crafted authentically in an old world style in one of McMinnville's most historic working wineries. Let our staff lead you through a tasting of highly rated wines. Our newly renovated tasting room is chic and urban. It's no wonder people are talking about Elizabeth Chambers Cellar, now offering private seated tastings. Call us to find out more information or to make your reservation today. Elizabeth Chambers Cellar is open daily from 11 to 5. Find us online at elizabethchamberscellar.com.
You're listening to Great Ducks on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Jelly. Jelly adjective. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
I'm little teapot, short and stout.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
No, Dad, like this. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and pour me out.
This is WWE superstar Roman Reigns. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Back on Great Ducks, presented by Carl's Jr., Joey Mack inside the Country Financial Studio. Time for your Pepsi Player Spotlight as we talk about all the great Ducks at the running back position. Some of the current guys on the roster, well, it's one of the deepest positions that Oregon has. We're talking about C.J. Verdell, Cyrus T.D. Licchio, as Jorgie calls him, Cyrus Habibi Licchio, and don't forget about Travis Dye. This is one of the deeper running back groups that Oregon's had, and it's one of the deepest groups on the team this season. A few guys to watch this year as we get ready for that first weekend in November when Oregon football is back on the field. Ducks going through practice. They were in full pads today. Our player spotlight always brought to you by Pepsi and locally owned Bigfoot Beverages. Go Ducks, drink Pepsi. Now back to the history books a little bit and Jerry Allen talking Great Ducks at the running back position.
Yeah, how about this guy? Played for the Ducks from 98 to 99, Reuben Droughns. I love this man. 5'11", 220 pounds. He packed a punch, but he had speed to go with it. He was a JUCO. He transferred, came into Oregon as a JUCO All-American at Merced after leading the nation there with 1,611 yards. In 98 and 99, he was a two-year starter there. Reuben was first-team All-Pac-10 choice as a senior. He ranked 6th on Oregon's all-time rushing list with 2,058 yards. Droughns had 1,234 yards and 9 touchdowns on 277 carries as a senior, including rushing for over 200 yards in 3 games. In his first game for Oregon, 202 yards and 2 scores against Michigan State. Toughest memory I have for Reuben, one of his most impressive performances was at UCLA, 172 yards, and scored despite fracturing a right fibula during the game. He came out. They thought it was just a sprain, said, "Sit down, you're not going back in." He waited until they weren't looking. He grabbed his helmet, went back in, and completely broke that ankle. And I'll never forget that. That was a tough one. Missed the rest of the season. Went out to play in the NFL, though. He was quite a guy in the NFL. traded to the Giants in 2007. Jorgie, you'll love that. He was drafted by the Detroit Lions, third round of 2000 NFL draft, but he got a Super Bowl ring. Who did he get the Super Bowl ring with? Gosh, it might have been the Giants, I think. Jorgie, you should know that.
Yeah, I don't know. I should, but I don't.
It was the Giants, yeah. Super Bowl 42.
Right. Well, I tell you, yeah, Jerry, and I'm glad you talked about him. Just that combination of physicality and speed, and for a guy to come in as a JC transfer, and a lot of times they're very mature from a body standpoint, but maybe have some bad habits. He didn't have any. Everything was right on schedule the day he got there, particularly against the Spartans in Autzen Stadium. It was cool to see. So, well, I get a chance to step back a little bit further, and that's with Derek Loville. Derek Loville played in the late 1980s, 1986 to 89, back in and around the Bill Musgrave era. And, man, he was something else. I think because he gets so far removed from a timing standpoint, people forget about how good he really was. Number 4 all-time rushing history, 3,200, almost 3,300 yards, 3,296 to be exact. Number 3 in career touchdowns with 41, 11 career 100-yard games. 6 of those were in 1988. He led the team in rushing all 4 years he played, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. He was a guy who made an immediate impact as soon as he got there from Archbishop Reardon High School in San Francisco at 5'10", 210. He was a guy who, again, all-purpose, and that's what he ended up in the NFL too. For people that remember him, 5,200 all-purpose yards at Oregon. He was a 2-time All-Pac-10 All-Conference selection. Was undrafted in the NFL. That's what's amazing about this guy is he won or was part of 3 Super Bowl winning teams as an undrafted player. Started with Seattle in 90-91 and then went to the 49ers, and that's where he made his heyday. And in 1995, he ran for 723 yards. He had 87 catches for 662. So, I mean, you kind of figured out real quick the guy was a pretty good player. And, again, in 1997 and 1998, he won a Super Bowl with the Denver Broncos. In 1994 with the 49ers. So 3 times he was part of a Super Bowl champion. But tremendous player, a member of the 2000 University of Oregon Athletic Department Hall of Fame, Derek Loville. And, boy, Terry, you got another dandy coming up, don't you?
Yeah, you were talking about earlier, Jerry, with Reuben Droughns and a JC transfer. Well, I've got a JC transfer, and he came in and he was pretty good. Saladin McCullough. 1996 to 97, just a couple of years, 5'9", 200-pounder, Pasadena, California, and 2,028 yards rushing. He played in only 7 games in 1996 because of injuries, but in those 7 games, he had 15 touchdowns on the ground, and it's just amazing. And that's tied for 8th all time in a season in only 7 games. That's how good this guy. You kind of wonder if he'd have been here for 4 years, what he could have done. But 9th Oregon all time in a season. His senior year, he had 1,343 yards rushing, 9th all time with 24 total rushing touchdowns, and tied with Kenjon Barner. By the way, for most rushing touchdowns in a game, they each had 5, and Saladin did it against Arizona in 1996, 8 times over 100 yards. 1997, he had 4 straight 100-yard-plus games. I'm watching that video. He's just smooth. I just wrote down, I said, smooth, effortless speed, and he had juke ability to run inside, even with his size. And 11 career 100-yard games, and again, just 19 games, but tied for 11th all time at Oregon, or tied for 5th rather, all time with 11 career 100-yard games. His best game came against Arizona, 1996, 25 carries, 223 yards. Remember in 1997, the season opener at Autzen Stadium, and Oregon was to receive the opening kickoff from Arizona, and he took it 93 yards for a touchdown, as you see it right there, I think. And you can see him, he's just smooth, and just he's like a slalom skier, just going to, he just could move, and just to make guys miss. And then with the speed, once he got out, it was just gliding, and he could take it the distance. A 76-yard touchdown run against Arizona in the Vegas Bowl. and a 71-yard touchdown run at Autzen against UCLA. The guy could fly. A Football News honorable mention All-American in 1997, second team All-Pac-10. Didn't have a big pro career, which surprised me a little bit. He was on the preseason 2002 team with the 49ers, but didn't make the regular season, but had a 6-year pro career. In fact, he won in 2001 with the LA Extreme a 2001 championship in the XFL. Saladin McCullough, and he was just smooth. He was just an amazing runner, and what he did, I mean, over 2,000 yards in just 19 games in a Duck uniform. He was really, really good.
Watching the highlights, your example of the skier, I was like, that's perfect. It's like he never lifts his legs that high. He just glides. That's a perfect example. It's Great Ducks presented by Carl's Jr. Quick timeout. We got a few more to highlight. And again, there's so many guys that we could have put on this list. But, well, we tried to cram it all into an hour. And we'll see if we can finish it up efficiently after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
After 2 years of construction, my wife and I finally moved into our dream home. So when a bathtub fixture broke, causing major water damage, I was glad we had the home insurance protection we needed. How do you know your home is protected? Talk to a Country Financial rep like me, Nick Simon. We can help you understand your options and select coverages to meet your needs. Then if something happens to your home, you won't have any surprises. Need the right coverage for your home but not sure where to start? Visit TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
It's game time, Oregon fans. Deschutes Brewery, proud sponsor of the Oregon Radio Network, is celebrating this fresh season with Fresh Squeezed, the original citrusy IPA bursting with refreshingly juicy mosaic and citra hops, and Fresh Haze, an ultra-juicy, hazy IPA that explodes with orange citrus that is out of this world. Available everywhere in the Pacific Northwest. Cheers to great tackles and touchdowns. Please drive responsibly on game day. Deschutes Brewery. It comes with the territory.
What's it like to grow with the O? At OCCU, we support Duck fans each step of the way by educating our youth with Lucky Duck Savings, celebrating independence with Duck Debit Checking, and rewarding members with the Duck Credit Card. That's how Duck fans grow with OCCU. Learn how you can too at myoccu.org/ducks.
More Great Ducks talk comes after this timeout on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
All right, everybody in the car. Let's go.
What are we going to do first when we get there, Mom? Go for a hike?
Sure.
What about canoeing? Can we go canoeing too?
I don't see why.
How long does it take to get to the forest?
It's not that far, sweetie.
Are we there yet?
Yep, we're here.
Already?
It's a short drive from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
They say that car crashes happen in slow motion. The reality is that crashes happen fast. There's no time to think and no time to check if your child is in the right car seat. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your kids in the right seat for their age and size? Don't think you know. Know you know. Get more info at safercar.gov/the-right-seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Carl's Jr., Joey Mack inside the Country Financial Studio with Jerry Allen, Mike Jorgensen, and Terry Johns joining us via the University of Oregon Alumni Association guest line. Well, guys, we've gone through so many. We have a few more to mention, really a lot more to mention, and guys that all deserve recognition. Jerry Allen, I'll start with you, and a guy who we talked about a little bit at the wide receiver position, but he was a pretty darn good running back, too.
Yeah, I mean, Bobby Moore, Ahmad Rashad. I mean, but there's so many guys that went both ways. And to say he was just a running back or to say he was just a wide receiver, give him his due. He was an athlete. Jordan, that's the thing I remember about him. He was just an athlete. You could have put him just about anywhere on that offensive and the skill position spot, huh?
anywhere. And he showed that in the NFL with the Minnesota Vikings as a receiver, let alone as a running back at Oregon. And, I wish I would have been old enough to see him and watch him play, because I hear he was just unbelievable out there with Dan Fouts. And, Terry, you got a chance. You somewhat remember him and that type of deal. And you have a whole list of a whole bunch of other guys, too.
Yeah, I remember Bobby Moore, like I said, when he was talking about the receivers, because he did that one. He couldn't play as a freshman, but as a sophomore, he was a receiver. And then his last 2 years, he was a running back. But Bobby Most, we used to call him, because Bobby Moore just didn't seem to fit because he was that good. But he could juke guys. He was like 6'3", 220, and could just glide. Another one of those gliders running down that nobody was catching him. Looked like he wasn't running hard, but nobody was catching him. And I saw him against Utah, 249 yards, his best game rushing. And he was just phenomenal. Sometimes they'd have pictures. Sometimes you'd put up with him, get the big plays, because he had a tendency to fumble once in a while because he got the ball way out there making a move. But at his size, it was just phenomenal, be that big, and what he could do. Of course, Mel Renfro going way back. Some guys we thought about that we didn't get on here on this show that very well could have: Ricky Whittle, Terrence Whitehead, Sean Burwell, Ontario Smith, Maurice Morris, there's Mel Renfro. Those are some guys, and you fans out there, you probably have some that's coming to your mind as well. There's been some great running backs at Oregon.
I just want to toss out one guy, Lattenberry. He played fullback. He was a tailback, but he played fullback in front of Derek Loville, so he didn't get the credit as a running back. But I'll tell you what, Coach Gary Campbell, put his name and asterisk right up there for all these great running backs. He's the reason.
Yeah, we were talking about that during break, just as we were talking about everybody, like, man, Coach Campbell just, and the impact that he had on all these guys' lives, too. I mean, that's what the coaching is all about. Well, guys, this was fun. So next week, our final Great Ducks show, we're going to talk offensive line and quarterbacks. We saved the quarterbacks for last, and, well, I think you know some of the names that will feature there, but the guys protecting them, too. This has been Great Ducks. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, man. This is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're going to go out there and be an all-star caregiver. Cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You got to dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments, because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Show the world